Okay. There we go. Hello. Welcome to Lunch Zone. I am your host for the day. My name is Morgan Forbush. I'm a master's student at UW Milwaukee for cultural anthropology. Hello, David. And we are gonna play just chillax and play some Tetris. Chillax, play some Tetris. Let me read my land acknowledgement real quickly, and then we can get into it. All right. So here's the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that in Milwaukee we live and work on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homelands along the southwest shores of Michigamme, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. As I catch myself. So yeah, Matthew is here. He's away for the moment. He will be back soon. Um, but yeah, we're just doing some good old Tetris. So, this is a Tetris. I don't know how I found this. I think I just Googled play Tetris online and I found just this site that's the Tetris official website that says, hey, we play Tetris. It's just kind of, it works. I think it's probably HTML5. And you just play Tetris. Um, it's free. The ads aren't too intrusive unless you want to see some great shops, some Tetris merch, which whatever. Some history on Tetris, as the Tetris website would like to tell us. It is an addictive puzzle game that was created by Alexei Pajitnov, Pajitnov, yeah, in 1984. Um, he just loves puzzles and computer programming. It got put on the NES, and then so on and so forth. So yeah, I think Matthew's back. Matthew, if you would like to introduce yourself, and then we can get into playing Tetris. Oh no, you probably dry all your clothes outside and it rains and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's Tetris. Do you like Tetris? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. The secret formula. Yeah, and it's really impressive because Tetris is so widely known. 30. Oh man, 85 was 36 years ago. So it was made in the 80s. So, over 3 decades, it's still widely known and popular and iconographed. Like the Tetris blocks, you see everywhere. It's not just like, oh yeah, that game that people play. It's in everywhere. Given the fact that, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And I have mhm. In the zone. Yeah. And for me, like when I pack my car or like going on a week journey and I have a bunch of stuff, I say, "Oh, I'm gonna play some Tetris with my groceries," or I'm playing Tetris with things. Like I make Tetris sort of ideas. Maybe just because I like Tetris so much. Who knows? Yeah, and fitting them in. So I will get started playing this Tetris. So this Tetris, we can talk about the two different types. There's also a new Tetris game that maybe I'll try out. But this Tetris game can be controlled with your mouse. Can you actually see my mouse when I'm over here? Oh yeah, you can. So you can either play with your mouse, or you can play with traditional keyboard controls. And I don't know if that changes how we interpret the game, but that's just how you can do it. So Dave will have to know if the Tetris is too loud. So talking about the playing. Ooh. Oh yeah, the Milgram experiment. Yeah. I really think that it does show off how pattern focused we are because or like how reticent we are to solving these enigmas and the different things that are shown to us. Because for me, I just like messed up this whole row. I did not mean to do this mess that I've created for myself, but I did. And now but I almost wish that I could just continue to mess up things and fix them. Like, oh, I got to fix these rows because they're not there's holes and I have to get down to the holes to make full rows. Um, mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I think and because the blocks aren't like I've seen very little clips of like professional Tetris and what they do for like professional oh I did not mean to do that. What I want to do for like professional Tetris is they set up the four lines, so where you have four rows and then you put the straight block and you get four lines at the same time, which is called Tetris. They set those up constantly, so they always have like this huge block of blocks just waiting to be cleared, but you never know when that four block will actually happen, when it will show up in the sequence. Yeah. And so you just kind of hope that it'll come up because I've had times where I've had like four Tetrises set up and there's just no Tetrises, no four blocks come, and I'm just like, God dang it! Now I gotta rethink my whole strategy here. And then you start using the L blocks and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how the pros do it, but it's kind of that reaction and figuring out what to do with the blocks you're given. I always get the square blocks when I don't need them. When I have no idea what to do with them. Oh, I don't know what. No, we're just gonna do that. Yeah. The game must know. Hmm. Yeah, and I definitely think it's the people who like, oh, the game knew I didn't want that. Definitely play on, our psychological um, reading reasons into everything. That's something that humans do all the time. It's like, oh, well, there has to be a reason why it gave me this 4 block, where it really is just random, I believe. um, not even. Oh, we're getting a little faster here, but yeah. Oh, oh no, not doing great. It's fine. Why did I do that? That's fine. Yes, there's like. Oh, go ahead. No, no, no. You go. You were on a roll. Go. Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things with Minecraft has random number generators that are tied to certain factors in the world. One of them being like lava, and they actually caught a famous speedrunner um, and debunked his runs because they figured out that the random number generator was bunk, that they had been altered. Are you enjoying this strange gameplay of Tetris I got going on here? Yeah. Yeah. Where you're like, what are you going to do in this situation? That's brinksmanship. What is brinksmanship? Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I didn't. It's kind of one of those things. It's satisfying to be able to do the thing because you're like, oh man, I did that. You also put yourself in this position, but that's fine. Oh, we got fast blocks going on here. Um, but so you have. I really like the idea of brinksmanship because there's a lot of games that like Death's not Death. Oh, I said Death Stranding, but I meant Dark Souls. Dark Souls has this thing where you are constantly on the brink of dying or getting hit and getting a massive amount of damage put on you. And it's kind of this edge of your seat sort of gameplay that is kind of, I think, is compelling for a lot of people. For me, I just find it really stressful because I kind of want a monicum of relaxation, and it's a lot more satisfying for me to destroy a bunch of Tetris blocks than to just keep dying until I beat the boss. So, but yeah, it's an interesting term, brinksmanship. There's that silly square block that I don't have anything to do with right now. This is not going well. There we go. Now I need that. Nope. I was one away. Oh, David says Tetris has always made me feel nervous. I feel super rushed playing it. Not a fun time for me. once it gets to I'm on level 16, so I don't know. Like I want to be like, oh, I have such great high scores, but I also have no idea because I don't know anyone who also plays the game, so I can't like compare myself to this specific Tetris game because every different Tetris game is different and like levels are different and scores are different and all that kind of stuff. But I can understand Tetris making you nervous. For me, the first part of Tetris is really relaxing, and you're like, oh, I'm just putting blocks down and clearing them out, making my lines, making a Tetris. The earlier levels are really easy to make Tetrises, line them up, and get them, and it's really cool. But as it gets faster and faster, I think it induces that feel of flow, so you just kind of get sucked into going faster and faster and faster um until you until you lose. And so it's like I feel the fastness as we go, but it increases slowly to the point where I don't quite understand that I'm getting pulled into the game sort of thing. So that was 192. My highest is 335,000. So yeah. And it gets faster and faster and faster and faster. I think I've never gone over like 350, so 330 is about where I go. But yeah. Um my cats are running around. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Mhm. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. And you see kind of how they like hijack the game system to do what they want it to do. Um yeah, yeah, attention economy or like how you design games to get people addicted to to playing the games more and more. Like Candy Crush, I believe. Actually, I don't know about Candy Crush, but I've had games like I played this bubble ball game or whatever where you stick the balls together and then they disappear. It's a very standard puzzle game that I've seen over and over again. Yeah, kind of like Montezuma, but this one is if you failed the level and you wanted to replay it, you have to buy replays, and then you can't progress in the game. And and so it's like, oh, if you want to play more of this really fun puzzle game, you have to pay for it. And I thought it was really, I uninstalled the app after that because I thought it was really scummy, and I would not buy into that. Um, but it's something that's not necessarily uncommon. I had Froggy or like Jumpy. It was like a Frogger clone, except you could be a chicken. I think it was called Crossy, and it's just like very much the same where you get addicted to the cool puzzle dynamics and you want to play more, but you get stuck on a level and you have to just either you have to wait, 15 to 20 hours to play again, or you buy it. And so it's like that hijacking of the uh yeah, yeah, definitely. Mhm. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just skip out on it. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like one of those um it's it's also like building it's one of those problems with behavioral psychology because I did a lot of research in my undergrad about nudging effects. And nudging is just like, hey, we put bananas, like, bless their heart, the researchers are like, we put bananas in the front of supermarkets and more people bought healthy bananas. And so they were like, this will be great. We can like teach people, we can kind of subvertly get people to eat healthier. We could get them not to not to smoke as much. This is great. But what the game industry did with that was they were like, well, we know how to press people's buttons to get them to buy more things. And other places have done that, but the game industry, definitely with the freemium market or getting people addicted to like having things on the homepage that you want to get or like advertising and that kind of stuff really gets you. It really is just like, oh hey, this nudging behavior that we found works, just totally subverted. And that's what I always worry about doing research like that. Is just like, who's going to steal this and make it into profit? So I'm watching like three different. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Oh. Hmm. Yeah. I yeah, I've definitely always well there's like I remember a time where there was multiple even multiple like video sharing platforms. And it's like I still I still go on places and there's still I think I still have more than 9 websites, but a lot of them are like Canvas or my email. Um, but yeah, it's mhm. Net neutrality. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And it goes back to that attention economy of like how do we get people to stay on the website longer? And that's kind of like you look at how what YouTube prioritizes in what people hypothesize YouTube prioritizes. I I used to have YouTube. I bought it when it was called YouTube Red, and then I had it through when they rebranded it to YouTube Premium. Um, so it's nice not having ads, but I just but YouTube stopped prioritizing view count and started prioritizing watch time. That that was the worst move ever. So it's like, well, we want people to stay on the platform, and that also leads to the issues of rabbit holes with every community, not just the alt-right community. There's rabbit holes everywhere on YouTube just because they want you to stay on the platform. So their recommendations are programmed and machine learned to keep you on the platform, whether it's just watching BreadTube or if it's watching other videos. And that's kind of goes the same with like I don't know about Twitter, but definitely like Facebook wants you to stay on the website longer. Most places want you to stay on the website longer because then they can advertise you to longer. So it's one of those things, keeping you attentive and looking at things and scrolling through feeds. I know a lot of people back when yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And then again, I can't really do what I want to do without the internet, which is, play online with people who are my little small group of geographically dispersed people. I would never have met those guys, and it would, drastically change my life without the internet. And it's one of those. There is a great book that I was reading, that I read, by Lawrence Lessig, talking about the constitution of the internet. It was like the first book that Malaby that Thomas had me read, and it has definitely was a great book to start because I really enjoyed it. But he was in the I read his second edition in which he wrote in like 2003, and his first edition was written in the late 90s, like 99. But he had these really great predictors on like so internet can do such amazing things, connect people, uh, foster communities that would be, trampled in their native countries, connect diasporas. They can do all these great things. only if we program it to do those good things. And there's a lot of ways that the internet can be programmed in ways that are not great for the society, like capitalism, like capitalistic tendencies to, drive certain markets to extinction or taking advantage of amateur markets, like all that kind of stuff. I don't want to say he predicted all of it, but it was very close to the current situation with the internet, where there's a lot of great stuff on the internet and it can do a lot of cool things, but there's also massive problems on the internet that have been programmed in, unfortunately, because companies have interests that are beyond just the consumers that are consuming the products. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and in the beginning of the internet, everyone was like, "Oh, the internet is gonna be this utopia. It's gonna bring down like governments will cease to exist because they have no power on the internet. They can't track anyone. They'll have no authority on the internet and all that kind of stuff." Um, and it kind of is in the counterculture book I was talking about, where he was talking about this utopic version of the internet being born from counterculture people in the 60s, and then moving into the 90s with it. That those visions did not happen because governments kind of said no. The governments were like, no, you got to regulate who's on your site so we can. I think one of the ones that I've seen pop up as like one of the first ones was there was a pornography website in Bavaria that the German government pretty much mandated, or it was accessible in Bavaria, and they pretty much made it like you have to track people who are from Bavaria so we can regulate this. And that was kind of the first governmental uh, messing in the internet that just kind of legal precedent. Yeah, and it's kind of led to governments won't go away because us humans will continue to give them power because it's how it's always been. um, hmm yeah, there was a big thing with, I remember the first one that I remember that happening in is like the newest Transformers, or like a recent Transformers movies, the one with the dinosaurs. That's all I know about it. um it took like half the movie took place in China because they wanted to cater to the Chinese audiences, even though it's still kind of a racist movie because it's Michael Bay and he's kind of racist. But it was like the first one where we're like, wow, this is blatantly geared towards a Chinese audience, and it was blatantly had specific things it didn't talk about because of Chinese censorship rules. And you have the things with like the NBA, like not backing one of its players because of their stance with China, and the Hong Kong riots and Blizzard. And so you see like those uh, companies bowing to China more than they're bowing to American audiences because there's just so many people in China. And that goes back to that geopolitical landscape, because for a long time, Americans and Europeans were the main audience for internet products. because there wasn't people who had access to the internet. And now that most countries have the internet in some shape or form, you start to see the inherent differences in how companies. I shouldn't have grabbed that block back out. How companies change themselves to adapt to the new geopolitical landscapes of the internet. So, hope that made sense. I'm trying to speak coherently while playing Tetris. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cutting edge. Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Transformers does not at all rely upon on dialogue. They're very much like, hey, we got fighting robots. Come watch them. Gray? Yeah. No, I think there's something to that because, as like a lot of people were I don't know, I don't think a lot of people I can't say that because I don't actually know the reviews. The Transformer like to cater to one audience or to cater to all audiences, it just doesn't have the same impact if it was meant for one audience. It's like what they say for like when you're writing a paper, who is your audience? If studio execs say, well, your audience is quite literally everyone on the globe, how do you make stories impactful? How do you make something that everyone can relate to? Well, you just go with love stories. And then everyone or Pixar movies or you brand them as kids movies, that kind of stuff. So, mhm. Yeah. Well, and especially mhm. And it's like what, Anna Singh was talking about. It's like, well, how do you hit beats in if you say, oh, this movie is going to be shown in 50 countries, the story writer has, it's like, hey, this is getting released in 50 countries. You need to hit something impactful for all 50 countries or something that can hit all 50 countries in some way that's relatable. And so the story writer is then like Anna Singh is saying, is constructing that global understanding of, well, if I'm selling this in Germany, I need to do something this way. If I'm doing something in Scotland, I need to do it this way, and if it's in America or the UK, they pretty much are the same. So like you get these global assumptions about countries and things that feed into that those kind of global stereotypes, I guess, the making of someone's global sense. I think so. I think she mentioned it in that book. Oh yeah, yeah, because they talk about like, oh well, this, because her what she was doing in that book was she was talking about, she was doing this understanding of, oh, I don't remember what country she was in. It was Borneo. Yes, yeah. I was like, it's like by Malaysia, in that area, and it's like what third third party, what G non oh my god, my brain's just frying. What the UN Council says is good for Borneo is maybe not actually what Borneo wants or what it needs for development. And so she was talking about, it's like, well, they make assumptions based on their own country, and then that might not apply to other countries for development purposes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and like also with like fruit, it's like, well, this is fruit that you can only get in this place, and then it becomes a frontier of, oh well, no one's selling this fruit elsewhere, like I can try to sell this internationally, sort of thing. I just remember the fruit markets being a really cool chapter. I should read. Oh no, that was a bad game. But yeah, you got the book out. Okay. Yes, yes, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. And definitely like the keywords of globalization and outsourcing might be one, but like definitely all the buzzwords of, you know, going from the global north to the global south and the understanding of the global north and the global south in general. It's very like, yeah. Definitely. And it was communism. The first world, best world. And I find it really interesting because I remember as a kid those terminology was used in school, and I would always wonder what happened to the second world. I was like, we have first world and we have third world, but what's the second world? And then I found out that it was communism. Communism was the second world, and I was like, wait, I think that's kind of interesting that we value, um, that in the 1960s we valued, we called Russia second world. Yeah, well, we are the first world, but people who hadn't decided didn't were just third world. They they were lesser than the capitalists. What'd you say? Sorry. Yeah, it's very. It's such a weird. Whew. Yeah, no, that let's not do that. hmm It, yeah, yeah, yeah. hmm Yeah. Well, it's also in like I remember there was a big problem in the Mulan film, the new Mulan film, which was apparently just bad in general. But I didn't watch it because I don't have Disney Plus because I don't like to support monopolies. But like the new Mulan was filmed within miles of the pretty much concentration camps that the Chinese government has set up for a specific. Yeah, yeah. The new Mulan was just filmed within like they. I don't have the whole story, but if I recall correctly, they were filming in an area with several of these known places. Um, and they were and it's because of where they needed to film and that just happened to be there and yada yada, but the fact that Disney thought it was okay to do that made everyone very angry. Like, you are actively supporting this ongoing, a lot of people call it like a genocide, but I don't know if it's I don't know the full story about it. But yeah, it's like you were quite literally filming near these humanitarian issues. And Disney just doesn't care. Disney got all of its money from the Mulan release and the world goes on, but it's because they didn't Disney just didn't care, and it's one of those horrible ideas that pissed off a lot of people in America, but it probably didn't piss off the main, you know, the Chinese market. So if the Chinese market's okay with it, like why would Disney care? So it's like one of those. It's very strange situation. I don't know why I brought it up. I can't remember my point with it, but oh yeah, yeah. And so if this was like supposed to be for an American market, that would never happen. Like if Can you imagine if like Disney filmed things near the Mexican border with a lot of the detention camps? Like, yeah, let me just film a movie within, a few miles of these immigration detention camps where children are separated from their families. That would be horrendous. And people would call them out for it. If it was like an American movie, it would tank. Like if it was like Warner Brothers who did this and then try to show it, it would absolutely fail because Warner Brothers is, they make movies primarily for American-ish audiences. Um, but like Disney didn't really care about. It's such a weird thing because they're like, well, we're making this not really for American audiences. We're making this for, you know, the global audience, and primarily like the Chinese audience won't care. So it's weird. It's a very strange idea of, marketing and who you care about now. And I think, mm-hmm, yeah, Oh yeah. Yeah. And of course, yeah, and definitely. And there's also like the idea of in I don't want to say the games industry, but like in Google and stuff, their work offices are almost gamified where they're like that that space between workspace and like recreation time is blurred to the point where people stay at work longer. And hey, if you're at work longer, you're going to work harder and you're not going to know it. It's like one of those it's like taking advantage of passion or like gamifying taking advantage of the fact that humans like playing games more than like playing work. And if you frame work as games, they're more willing to work harder. You know? Um, yeah, and it's like gamifying exercise and stuff and everything. Oh yeah, with like it's like DoorDash or something or yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think it I would say it's so hard to talk about the credit system because it's such a weird obtuse thing. But in America like um when someone says, "Oh, I don't have a credit card because I don't want credit card debt." Everyone tells them it's a bad idea because if you don't have a credit card, you're not building credit, and if you're not building credit, it ruins pretty much any chance you have of like getting a house or some um some landlords check your credit for for renting out a house for renting out apartments to you. So if you don't have a credit score, you're really screwed in life just because you didn't want to play the game of having a credit card. And and some people were like, well, you just need an evolving balance and all that kind of stuff. But me personally, I would love it if I didn't have a credit card because I have self-control issues on if I have a credit card in my wallet, I will use the credit card 100% of the time. So I don't put credit cards in my wallet, which is, a way of getting around it, but I just like not to have credit cards. But if I didn't have credit cards, I wouldn't have credit. And closing old cards actually hurts your credit than closing new cards, and it's such a complicated, stupid system. But yep, and you have to buy into it if you want to live in, if you want to be somewhat successful and get loan, or even if you just want loans, like maybe you can be successful somehow to buy a house outright. But I mean, I don't think you are. I don't think a lot of people can do that, so they're forced to get, bank loans and stuff. And even if I should get a cobalt mine in the Congo. Alrighty. All right. So that's you get to watch my beautiful. Thank you for having a great conversation. I was like, oh, there's only two of us. I wonder where this conversation is going. Not where I expected it to go, but very glad it did. Because I think you're the first person. I'm sure other people have read Anna Sing, but you were like Anna Sing Friction. I'm like, I've read that book. I have that book. I read it for environmental anthropology course, because of course I did, and it was fantastic. So it was a great conversation. Thank you, David, for popping in the chat. If you're still here, thank you everyone who's watching, whether you're live or on the VOD. So have a great day, everyone, and we'll catch you on the flip side.